Hello, this is the Plains and Prairie Take It to Church Bible Tote Bag Pattern tutorial. And you want to start by printing both the instructions and the pattern. When you print the pattern, please be sure to set your printer at 100% and check the 1-inch guide to make sure that you've printed the pattern at the correct size. So here we can see that it is 1 inch. You're going to assemble the pattern by cutting on all of the dotted lines that say cut here. Do not cut the solid lines that say match to here. Once you've cut all of the dotted lines, we'll then match them to their corresponding letter on the solid lines. So once you've taped all of your pieces together, matching A1s with A2s, A3 and A4, again, B1s. Don't forget your little pattern piece C over here and continue on through all of the pattern pieces. You can then cut out along the outside lines. For A and AW, don't cut on the blue line until later when we've already put the piece together. Just cut on the outside green line for now. The same will also go for pieces J, W, and for piece J. You're going to want to cut only on the most outside line for these pieces. So cut on the bottom green line and cut on the bottom purple line. This pattern makes 2 different sizes, the regular tote and the wide tote. For the regular tote, you're going to need pattern pieces A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, and J. And again, noticing that J was cut to the green line and that A still has its bottom corners. For the wide tote, you'll need a W. Again, noticing that the corners are still left on. B, C, D, E, F, G. We're going to use HW, I, and JW, again, going to the bottom purple line. Here I'll show fabric placement and cutting with the pattern pieces. And since we're using interfacing, it doesn't really matter which direction you place the pattern pieces on the fabric. However, I would not recommend placing them on a diagonal unless the pattern instructs placing on a diagonal. That's never really a good idea because the fabric has a lot of stretch in that direction. Whenever possible, it is a good idea to place them on the warp, which is the longest run of the fabric. Design-wise, I like the look of using the canvas on the inside the same fabric as the canvas on the outside, and that's what I did on the printed instructions. But for the video tutorial, I'm going to show you the lining cut out of a different fabric just to try and keep it more separate visually for you. So for pattern piece A, you're going to need to cut out 2 of the quilts or outer pieces. Now this can also be denim or canvas. It does not have to be quilts. It can be quilt pieces that you've made on your own, but this is the outside fabric 2 pieces. You'll need 2 pieces of the lining interfacing and 4 pieces of your canvas lining. And again, they're all cut to the edge of the pattern piece A. For pattern piece B, it instructs you to place on the fold for the canvas, and this is the outside canvas that I'm using. It's a different color than the lining, but again, I kind of like to use the same one when I'm personally making it, but to make it more clear in the instructions, I've made them different. So all of the outside canvas will be the green stripe, and all of the inside lining will be that brown pattern that you saw before. So when it instructs you to place on the fold, you're going to fold your fabric in half, and then place the folded edge on the fold line and cut it out. For the interfacing, we only need single pieces, so they're not placed on the fold, they're just cut out singly. And you'll need 2 of each. To keep it clear, in the pattern, interfacing is this lighter interfacing, and reinforcement is what I use as a term for pattern piece C, it's a thicker interfacing. This is the only place you're going to see this thicker one is on pattern piece C, and I refer to it as reinforcement. So you're going to cut 4 of these. For pattern piece D, we're cutting 2 pieces of the quilting batting fabric padding and 2 pieces of the lining, the outside lining. And there's a note in the pattern. You can use anything for padding or batting here. You can use regular plain quilt batting. You can use quilted fabric. You could use a piece of the quilts too if you had some extra on that. It's just really anything that gives it a little extra plushness. So you'll need 2 again of the canvas and the filler batting pieces. For pattern piece E, this is again, besides A, this is really the only place you're gonna see outside quilts if you're following the pattern as I've instructed it, along with F. So here you're going to also have 2 quilt pieces, 2 lining pieces, and 2 interfacing pieces. This is again the outside canvas. For pattern piece G, this is an inside piece only for the most part. You have 2 interfacing pieces and 2 of the inside lining canvas pieces. For H, there are a few options. Following the pattern, if you're using wax canvas, if your machine can handle sewing wax canvas, you're going to cut 1 piece canvas, 1 piece of the padding, and 1 inner lining. If your sewing machine can't handle waxed canvas, you could use another piece of the outside canvas, which would be that striped fabric, or you could cut this in quilts. So if you're going to cut this in outside canvas, you'll cut your inside canvas, the padding, and an outside canvas. If you're going to choose to just use quilt on the outside, then you would cut 1 piece inside for the lining, and you would cut 1 piece in the quilts, the same as piece A, and you would cut 1 interfacing piece to reinforce that quilt piece A. Only if you're using wax canvas on the previous piece, you'll cut 2 out of I. If you're not using wax canvas, you can just skip piece I. For pattern piece J, I've cut 1 piece of lining in a quilting cotton weight fabric, and then I folded it in half to cut the second lining piece. So you're gonna have 1 that is cut to the blue line and 1 that is cut to the green line. And if you're using the JW piece, it'll be the exact same thing, but just to the other color lines. Last but not least is the hardware. You'll need 2 number 5 zippers, 3 zipper slides. For the strap, we're gonna need 2 D-rings, a slide buckle, 2 clasps, and the snap button closures. You'll need 2 of those as well. To start sewing, we're going to take piece J, the shorter piece that went to the blue line, and on your piece A, we're going to choose which one we want to be the front. I think I'll do this one as the front. So I'm going to set this one aside and only work with 1 of piece A. We're also going to need 1 zipper and 1 zipper slide. So fold pattern piece A. You can cut it here if you want, but folding it keeps it intact so that you can use it again later without losing pieces. So we'll fold it over on that dotted line, and we're gonna match the bottom to the quilt piece. Draw a line with a water erasable marker, and then I'm gonna cut on that line. So this is where we're going to attach the zipper. You will take the bottom larger portion, the zipper, so that the teeth and the slide are going to run to the left. Turn it upside down and match these right at the top. I like to leave just a little bit of space, but really right up there at the top. So these are right sides together. I'm going to take the right side of the quilting fabric and place it centered on those, and I'm going to sew all the way across here. So we sewed all the way across here. And now we're going to open this piece up. It should look like this. Sort of getting these to lay down away from each other. You're gonna fold it out like that now so that the zipper is coming out from the front quilt and your pocket lining. Make sure that the wrong sides are touching. We're going to top stitch down along here. So you can see that we've top stitched here. And this is the hardest part probably from the instructions to follow, is to take this tail and fold it up to match the zipper. So we've folded it right sides together to match the top. Then we're gonna take that little top piece of the quilt that we cut off and we're going to place it on the top center and stitch all the way across. We'll then flip it open and top stitch again. Now your piece looks like this. So we've top stitched here. The back looks like this. We're going to pull the zipper open on the right side and we're going to put the slide back on. To about the middle. Then we're gonna stitch all the way around both sides to make sure that the zipper stays on there. It should stay on there, but this also helps keep the pocket attached evenly to the front. So I've stitched it just to cover the zipper and along the side. We're going to use pattern piece A to trim the extra pocket side. The pattern was designed so that this would be bigger so that you would make sure to catch the pocket. It also, if you sew too tightly up on the zipper, you might make this piece shorter. It should end up being the same size as the pattern piece. If it's not, if it's about 1/4 of an inch difference, you're okay. Just trim the other back piece so that they're the same height. So using pattern piece A, we've trimmed this. It looks nice and clean. We're going to take the interfacing pieces, make sure that the shiny interfacing glue side will go to the back of the quilt pieces, and use the instructions that come with your interfacing. We're going to iron this onto the back of both quilt pieces. If you're not using quilt, it would still be the same for the outer pieces. So here the interfacing has been ironed on. We're just gonna set these aside for now. And I'm gonna take the remaining pattern pieces A and J. And this is the longer pocket here. Taking just 2 of these for the moment. Place one wrong side down. Place the zipper, again running right to left, down at the top. We're going to do exactly the same thing we just did. And we're going to center the pocket over the top, sew down, flip it around, and top stitch. So this was exactly the same we did for the quilts. I flipped it around and top stitched it. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to flip the tail up and match it on the top here. And I'm going to sew this one again, but we're going to do something differently after I sew that there. So I've sewn it down here, but we need to do something differently because if you don't top stitch, the slide will catch the pocket every time you open it and close it. So flip this up and we're going to open the zipper. Don't worry about it, it won't be that hard to put it back together. And then we're going to top stitch this together. So now it looks like this. I've top stitched both sides together, and so now we want to put it back together. We'll do that by taking one slide, and I think it goes this way, it'll be easier. Take one slide and put it all the way through. And go all the way across. Now our zipper is back together, so we can put slides on from each side. Okay, so we have this pocket piece here that looks like this. Okay, so smooth it out and make it so that the zipper is laying like this, so that you can barely see the other side just at the edge. And you want your sides to be very even, matching on both sides. If you need to top stitch this down here to get them to stay together, that would be a good idea to do now. So I've top stitched it just to get it to sit in place. Take one of your remaining loose pieces and place it 2 inches down from the top and sew it down the sides. So make sure that you've gotten everything together and all the edges are included. Now you're gonna see 3 different kind of layers. This 1 piece, 2 piece, 3 piece. This back piece is ultimately gonna end up being the bag. This is all gonna get cut off. So we're gonna sew a 1/2 inch on the bottom here and then another 1/2 inch here, and that's just to make sure that this pocket will be really strong. So here I've sewn 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch from that backmost piece. It might feel like you're cutting up into the pocket, but this is gonna end up in the seam of the final bag, so you really aren't. Now you have a pocket. We're gonna trim all the pieces up now. Using pattern piece A, matching it to the very top up here, we're gonna trim this piece on the sides. And on the bottom, we're gonna trim it as well. So the back is gonna have those 2 sewn lines. Now we're gonna use pattern piece A to trim the corners of all of the A. I like to cut just 1 corner. That way you can use this again without having to reprint it. So I'm just gonna put this on here and trace the line. And then I'll flip it over and use it to draw the other line. And I'm gonna do this for the quilt pieces and the loose final piece. So the front and back pieces are complete. You now have the front and back outer with zipper, and you have the front and back inside lining one with zipper. Now we're gonna gather snap reinforcement C and all the pieces we cut for F. That's 2 interfacing, 2 outer lining, and 2 quilt pieces. And we're going to start by, you can cut out this whole little dotted line if you want, but I think it works fine to just fold it on the bottom part of that dotted line. So I've just folded it on the bottom of that little rectangle. And we're gonna use that on the lining piece, on the inside, the wrong side of the fabric. Place your pattern piece on. And make a mark with a water-soluble pen. Now, it can be a little difficult to get the water-soluble ink out, so I like to make just little dots to give me somewhere to put, because again, if you make a really long solid line, sometimes even though it's water-soluble, it doesn't really come out very well. And we're going to place C with the glue side down from corner to corner on those dots, and we're gonna iron it. Use the instructions that come with it to iron. We now have ironed these on the wrong side, and we're gonna take the regular interfacing glue side down and iron them again right on top of that. So here we have the interfacing on the wrong side with piece C in the middle. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold piece C, the edge, to piece C, and then I'm going to do the same, folding it in half again, just piece C in half, not the whole piece. So that way we get a crease mark where we can find the center. And I'm going to mark the center. Then I'm going to take one of the washers and I'm going to place it so that it's right in the middle of the mark we just made of the middle. And then I don't know if you have a way you like to put these on, but how I like to do it is I like to use an awl to just make a dot on both sides. And that's just right in the middle. And then you're going to take a razor and you're gonna cut just as long as that little line. It's like less than 1/4 inch. So I don't know if you can see that little slice there. And we're going to take the male side. So that's the kind of smaller, flatter side. And we're going to put it on the right side and just place those arms through the holes. And then take the washer that you used to mark the hole and then pull the arms away from each other outside. Now you've put the snap on, so do it for the other side. We're almost gonna complete this piece. Now placing right sides together, you're gonna sew all along the curve line. You're gonna leave this side open, do not sew here. When you're sewing quilt, it inevitably stretches just because of how it's made. That's another reason why we use the interfacing. So I like to always sew from the not quilt side, from the canvas or interfacing side, just so that I can see the correct size and shape of the pattern. Now that we've left that one piece unsewn, we're gonna flip them inside out. And then this is personal preference for top stitching. You could go along here if you like. I like to just sew a circle around the snap. Sewing a circle around the snap also makes sure that that interfacing piece is going to stay in there and really keep that snap strongly placed. So pattern piece F is done. We're going to move on to pattern piece B. So take one piece of the folded over, and the snap guide, you'll need it for the horizontal placement, but it's pretty much right on that line. So just want to make sure that your fold mark is really clear. That'll help you put this pattern piece right on top there, and we'll make marks. So you can see it's just a hair from the edge. So you should be able to place this piece just a hair from the edge as well. And we're gonna repeat the same steps as we did before. So ironing this down, and then we're gonna iron the interfacing over on just this half. So you might also iron at the top just to give them a nice crisp fold over. Here you can see both interfacing pieces, and I'm going to do the same as before. So it's been, the female part, which is the thicker one, has been placed on, again, on the outside. So I like to top stitch 1/4 inch from the top, go around the snap and come across again. You can see that way we're catching piece C again and making it secure. We are going to finish the outside of the pocket with the outside protection canvas. This is wax canvas. If you're not using wax canvas because your machine can't sew it, then you would just skip this piece and this is done as it is. If you are going to use the wax canvas, We're gonna fold this in half. I'm sorry, not in half. We're gonna fold 1/4 of an inch over. And then lining it up on the bottom, we're gonna sew it all the way around. So there's the canvas attached, and the piece now looks like this. So here is the canvas attached, and the piece now looks like this. We want to gather all the D pieces. This is the outside canvas lining and the padding or batting. And we're going to put the wrong side of the canvas onto the batting and stitch all the way around. So we're taking D, which now has the padding on one side, and we're going to put the padding side down. We're going to take one of the pocket flaps, and we're going to place it so that the lining sides are touching, centered here. And then we're going to take one piece of E, and we're going to put it quilt side down. We're going to sew all the way across, then we're going to flip it up, and we're going to top stitch. So now they look like this. We are going to take the interfacing pieces from pattern piece G, and we're going to iron them wrong sides on here. Now, because again of quilt stretching, if you're finding the interfacing is just a little bit smaller than the quilt piece, favor the bottom of the piece, favor the bottom here, not the top. So we have this piece with the interfacing completed, and we're going to take this piece and line it up on the bottom. It should also fit the snap. These both should fit pretty well. Taking one side, doesn't matter left or right, that you want to start with, and line this piece up straight on the side so that the bottom corner are lined up here and the side is lined up, and sew down the side. Now this part can be a little hard, especially if you have the wax canvas on here. You want to line the corner up again and the side and sew again. You'll finish by sewing the bottom also flat. They should all line up. If for some reason one piece was a little bit longer, you can trim it a little bit here, but everything should fit well. Now we're going to make the last outside piece, H, which is the bottom of the bag. If you're not going to use the wax canvas, then you'll either have a piece of quilts interfacing and lining, or you'll have a piece of outside canvas, quilts, and lining. But as per the pattern, I'm going to be using the wax canvas. Put the lining aside. We're going to sew the wax canvas down. If you're doing quilts, just iron the interfacing on the wrong side of the quilt. If you're doing just regular canvas, then you'll secure it to the batting just like we did on the side panel before. We're going to take the bottom and the two sides, and on each side of the bottom we'll place the canvas sides together. We'll sew. So we've sewn them together, and we top stitched on the bottom side. So here, if you're doing leather handles, you're still gonna wanna mark the middles. It'll make it easier for you later. But if you're gonna not do leather, you're doing either the cotton webbing or a cotton handle, you are gonna wanna do these steps here. For the cotton fabric handles, you would iron in half wrong sides together, and then you would iron the interfacing on one half. You then fold the edges together and iron, and then fold one more time over, and then you would sew along the edges. For the webbing, it's easy because it's already done. So cut them to the length for the pattern. Then you're going to use a ruler to find the center, and then you're going to mark 2.5 inches over from each side of the center. So here are my marks. And I'm also going to mark 2 inches down from the strap edge. So I've drawn a 2-inch line from the ends. Now it's going to feel upside down, but we're going to center that line on the dot that we made for both sides, and we're going to sew a 1/4 inch from the edge. So this gives you an idea of about how long the handle will be. If you want a longer or shorter handle, you can adjust that and make it whatever length you want. Just the front piece for now, and I'm going to center it right sides together on the middle of that wax canvas bottom. So there's centered here, and I'll clip this first. Okay, now we're gonna pin it all the way around the edge. This pocket part is hard. Sometimes I like to put this inside here to keep it out of the way. But continue clipping around the edge. You want to really make sure that it's flat here and that you're not catching the pocket or any of the other parts in your seam. Now you'll notice that this is a little bit too long here, and the reason that it's too long is because depending on how you get around the corner and how bulky your canvas is, it's just really hard to make these ends meet up. So I made this piece a little bit longer so that you can ensure that you can get a straight line here when we trim it later. So we'll continue clipping the other side. Now you want to sew it from this side. It'll be a lot easier to sew it from this side rather than the other side. So we've got this sewn together, and we want to make sure that we haven't caught this part or this part in the seam. So check on both sides that looks good. And then we're going to attach the other side in the exact same way and sew it. So the bag is sewn all together. We're going to flip it and trim so that now all the edges are even. 2 smaller pieces and the D-rings in either the cotton webbing or the cotton fabric. Leather, again, you'll do at the very ends. So thread that through there. You'll want to find the center here, make a mark, and we're gonna sew this about 1 inch on this side and 1 inch on this side of the edge. So even though you had to stitch a 1/4 inch down from the edge, you're still, the edge of the actual bag is 1 inch between the middle. And you're gonna do it so that the D-ring is on the bottom. Now we're gonna do pretty much the exact same thing all over again with the lining. So you'll take your bottom, which is the smaller of the 2 pieces, and we're gonna sew it on each side, right sides together. So I like to top stitch again only onto the other side so that the bulk will be divided evenly. So we top stitch the other bag on this side, we're going to do this one on this side. That makes the extra seam go opposite directions. And we're going to take the part with the zipper and again match it up and clip or pin all the way around and then sew. So I've sewn this piece together again from this side. Now we're gonna sew this one on, but we're only gonna sew until the end of the curve on each side. We're gonna leave this open so that we can turn the bag inside out. So the lining has been put together. We have that hole in the bottom to leave to turn it inside out. And we're also going to trim these side pieces up here. Okay, so take this, turn it right side out. We'll take the outside of the back and we're going to place it so that the part that has the zipper is going to go on the other side from the zipper inside. So you'll see both zippers facing up and you'll put the lining in. And put the straps all down. So again, there's a zipper on this side in here, and there's a zipper on this side in here. Opposite sides. Now, matching up the corners, we're going to clip it all the way around. So it's sewn all the way around, and we're going to pull the lining out using that hole. I like to grab one corner and pull it. You want to check that all of these sides are not caught. It's free because sometimes this will get stuck in the seam over here. So everything on the outside looks good. The D-rings are there. So now you're going to take this and fold it in and sew across. Okay, so we've sewn the bottom up. Now we can put the lining back inside the bag. And we're going to sew a little more than 1/4 of an inch, more like 1/2 inch all the way around the outside of the bag. So the bag is almost finished. You can see inside. We're going to finish reinforcing these by sewing X's about 1 inch on each one of the parts where the webbing or the strap comes out. And the bag is finished after we've reinforced the straps. Finally, we're going to make the crossbody strap, and you're going to take the longer strap and we're going to go through one clasp, fold it over about 3/4 of an inch, and then fold it over. It's going to be about like that, and we're going to again sew an X around it. We've sewn this together. We're going to take the flat side and find the other ends. Put the slide buckle through it. Leave a little space to work with. We're going to put the other clasp through like this. You're going to come on the bottom side of the buckle through again, both sides. Now, you want to make sure that you're going to sew it back to the side that has the clasp. You don't want to sew it back to this side. This side needs to remain free to move. So you're going to sew it, fold it over to this side. You have now the completed strap. You can attach it to the D-rings on the bag. And it's complete.